What up and welcome. I'm Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer. This is my YouTube channel, Coded Design, where I teach coding and user interface design. Up to this far, we have been typing use state and simple array of objects and array and even simple data types or simple variables. What if we want to type a function? Let's say on the parent component, we want to pass a function so that it can be executed inside a child component. Let's just make an example. We are here on page component, which is the parent, and this is the child component, sample component. We want to pass a function as a prop so that it can be executed here on the children. So how can we do that? Okay. First of all, we need to declare the function that we want to execute. Okay. Let's say const child function, meaning that this function is going to be executed by a child component. Okay, let's just see. This value is never used. Okay, let's just copy this. Make sure undo. Copy with this also. My apologies about that. Just make sure this is here. Okay, and then when this function is executed, we will just display function executed. Function executed. Let me just try to call this function to see what will happen. Even if I'm calling this function, oh, okay, const, okay, const this. Okay, my apologies about that. Okay, here is a proper way of defining a function. Okay, so const child function. This is the child function, and here I'm calling it. This is the wrong way because we don't want to call this function here on the parent. As you can see, nothing is being alerted, no alert box. Okay, because we don't want to call this function here. Let's say we were calling it here on the parent. Let's see what will happen. As you can see, function executed. Okay, this is not what we want to do, meaning that we have to remove this from here. We want to pass this function down, pass it as a prop so that it can be executed inside a child component. So let's quickly do that. And then we're going to come here. Then we're going to say child, let's say callback. Okay, we are going to call this callback, and then we pass this function. Okay, so that means we are passing this function as it is so that it can be executed inside a children. Okay, here inside a child. Now let's go to the child component and receive this function and type it. Okay, so now we are here inside a child. Okay, we want to receive this function and we need to type it. Now let's type it. We have called this function callback, and then now we need to type it. Okay, let's go back to the parent. Okay, and also let's go back to the actual function. Okay, where is it? Here is the function. Okay, does the function returns something? No, it returns nothing, but it just displays something. Okay, meaning that it's not returning, meaning that the return type of this function is void. Then that is sufficient for us to type this function. This is how you type a function. You open and close curly braces and put this equal sign and this arrow, and you need to specify the data type, okay, the return type, of which the return type is void, and that is it. Meaning that we have passed this function, excuse me, we have passed this function from the parent to a child, and we have assigned a type from this a type on this function, okay, and the type is void because it's returning nothing, okay. And then from then we need to execute this function, okay. So after receiving it, we need to take this callback function and execute it inside a child, okay. Okay, let's go and check it. As you can see, now it's executing, but is executing inside a child. We have accomplished what we wanted to do, but there is no transparency between me and you as the student. What do I mean by that? We are not sure if the alert box is the one from the previous execution, which is the one which was from the page. We are not sure about that, or it's this one. Even if I can save it again and it reruns, obviously it displays, but there is no guaranteed in a way. We cannot be sure. So now that we have done with step one, we have typed a function. We need to push this further. But before we push this further, let's hit the point home. This is how you type a function, okay? And then this is the return type, and that's all. Now we want to prove. Now let's change the scenario or modify it. Let's make this function to receive a message from the calling component. Then we are going to know if is it being called from the parent or it's being called from the child component. Then we are going to be sure, both me and you, that we are doing the right thing. So this function will receive a string, okay? Let's say the name of the string is going to be a calling component. Calling component name as a string. You are going to receive this string, and then you are going to display alert the string that you have received. We are getting to section 2 of this video, where we are typing a function that receives a parameter. As you can see, now our function from the parent component, it receives a parameter. That parameter is calling component name. This is the component name, the calling one. It's either going to be the parent or it's going to be the child. It's going to be a type of a string. This is going to help us to distinguish which is the calling component. And then now we alert the calling component name, as you can see. So that means we have modified our function. TypeScript is complaining, okay? TypeScript is complaining about what? About here, what it says, okay? Type calling component, which is a parameter void, is not assignable to a type of. That's not much of a problem, because in this function, okay, as we are passing it to the child, okay, as you can see here, it doesn't receive anything, okay, meaning that here it must receive something, okay. Also, let's call this a calling component, and let's type it. Now this is the callback function. This is the right way of typing it. We are specifying that it receives a parameter of string, okay, or an argument, okay, an argument which is going to be a string. And then what we are going to do now, whenever we call it, because it's complaining, it's expecting one argument, okay, whenever we are calling it, we need to give it an argument, and that argument, it will be the message, okay, or let's just say for now the calling component. What is the calling component? Here, let me just say called by a child component. Now Suppose we display this message because it's only the child that is calling this function using this callback because it receives this function as this callback variable, and then here it executes it. So let's go back. As you can see, function executed. This is a problem. Maybe it's from the previous execution. Let's just click. As you can see now, it's starting to execute. Let's just refresh it. Okay, it's starting to execute the most recent changes called by a child component. I'm happy with this, but let's change it now. Let's comment the child component. Let's comment the child component. As you can see, the child component executes this function using the callback variable because it receives it as a callback. Now let's save this. As you can see, no matter how much we can refresh, there's nothing happening. Now let's go to the parent component and call this function. Okay, where is it? What's the name of that function? Let's call this child function, okay, inside the parent, and we pass a different string. And then let me just say parent is calling, okay, which is the parent is the one that is calling this function. Now let's go back and see parent is calling. Guys, I hope I have made it clear to you on I hope I have given a clear explanation on how to type a function and also how to type a function that receives an argument, okay, or that passes parameters. I'm Matthew Msungati, the designer and developer. Please don't forget to support the channel and just hit the like button or the subscribe button, or just shoot a comment below if you like this type of a content. See you on the next one.